Welcome to the Den of Tools.
Howdy ho, guys and gals, it's Red, your friendly neighborhood tool bear, back again here in the old Den of Tools. And today we're here to talk about miter saws, but not just any miter saws. We're talking about a niche of miter saws that I like to refer to as zero rear clearance miter saws. Now, we're going to make that more clear here in just a hot second. Now, we got to talk about real quick the predecessor here, which is the radial arm saw. DeWalt invented the radial arm saw long ago, and it was the king of the roost when it came to cross cuts and miter cuts in the shop. Fantastic thing. In fact, it did far more than that. It did almost everything you really needed, really. They had lots of different versions sprang up. I remember my dad had a version like this. But one of the benefits of this saw is that because of the way it was built, the tracking mechanism, the radial part, was up on top, and you could mount this pretty much flush mount with the wall. Made a great space saver in the shop. Well, along comes the upstart. That is the sliding miter saw. Now, miter saws have been around for a long time, but the sliding miter saw, well, that was a big deal here because those sliding rails allowed it to do a lot of the key functions that you would use for a radial arm saw for, and they would do it for, a lot less. How much less? Well, the cheapest I could find a brand new radial arm saw is $3,000. Just consider you could buy a top-of-the-line sliding miter saw, a decent cabinet table saw, and still have enough money to take you and the wife to Paris for lunch. Did you not? All right. But one of the drawbacks of this new sliding design is, well, the sliding design. Those tubes that they run on there, those rails, they're called a linear rail system. They stick out behind the saw when fully retracted about a foot to 2 feet, depending on the model of saw you're looking at. And that becomes an issue sometimes. Now, if you're on the job site and you're working off of a stand like this, you can set up anywhere. You usually have plenty of room to work around. Not really an issue. But when you're in the shop, that's where things start becoming, why did I buy this thing? So you either have to build your whole bench out away from the wall, or you have to do like they did here, which is build a little peninsula to have that saw stand out from the wall so that you have that clearance for the retracting and the sliding capability of it. Now, another option is you could build one of these carts. A lot of people did that. I did that at one of my older shops. The carts are nice, but there's nothing like the stability and the ease of use of having a permanent bench-mounted solution. Well, enter the Bosch articulating axial gliding saw. They don't call it the sliding saw. They call it a gliding saw. And this uses two, they look like robotic arms. It's just the way the folding mechanism works. Allow you to have the same functionality of the sliding saws without the tube rails sticking out the back. This is a fantastic option. There's many saws that now allow you the same kind of way of doing this through either similar or alternative mounting methods. That said, before we jump into those, I want to say how much I like this bench setup here that they built. This was done by DIY Montreal. They have a YouTube channel here. They also did a full Instructables on this. I'm going to have a link down below to that if you want to check it out. All right, so as you know, when I do these kind of price comparison kind of things, I always like to set a baseline. Well, the baseline we're going to set here is the standard saw. When you're talking about a 12-inch, 15-amp sliding miter saw, the Hercules for a upper tier level saw, and all these saws are going to be upper tier. So I picked the cheapest upper tier saw we could find. It is $379, $380, let's call it. Now the DWS 780, which is like the premier top of the line DeWalt saw, it's running right now for over $500. Now I've used both of those saws. They're great saws. There's nothing wrong with either of them other than, the space issues that we talked about. So now enter Bosch. We're talking about the GCM 12SD here. Again, a 15 amp, 12 inch corded dual bevel sliding glide miter saw with a 60 tooth blade. That's nice. But here's the question. Look at that price. Are you willing to jump from $380 to $650? How about even from $500 or $550 to $650 to get that flush mount system? For some people, they're going to say, no, I would never do that. For those of you who had a dedicated shop setup, especially those of you where space is really an issue, and let's be honest, space is always an issue in the shop, isn't it? But is this a better saw though? That's the other thing you have to talk about. Am I just paying that? Well, Am I say I'm just paying that for the sliding motion? Yeah, is it a better saw? I've used all three of these saws we just talked about, and I have a hard time saying that the Bosch is a better saw. It's a fantastic saw. It probably, and I will say this, I think it has better dust collection. Not that many miter saws do good dust collection, but the Bosch is one of the best. So in a shop setting, again, that dust collection could be a selling point for you. So the improved dust collection plus the flat, up against the wall usability, that could be what makes this cost effective for you. It's now the Bosch has got a lot of features. It's a well-made saw. One of the features it doesn't have is it doesn't have any kind of guide system for the blade. There's no laser, there's no drop shadow light, there's nothing. It seems like kind of an oversight. I realize that those are kind of just nice to have features, not necessary. I mean, I didn't use them for years and years and years, but once you have them, you're like, I kind of miss it if I didn't. But anyway, this is a fantastic saw. It has all sorts of capabilities. You have great length of cut. You could cut crown molding. You could do all sorts of things with this saw and have that extra space saving capability. But you're paying the premium for that. Now, Delta came out with their version of this system, if you will. Now, their arms are set at a 45-ish kind of angle there. There's two arms, one on either side. So it gives you a similar kind of mechanism to the Bosch, just a different setup here, done by Delta. Now, I know Delta back in the day, way back in the day, Delta was a fantastic name. And then they got kind of iffy in, like the 90s and stuff like that. They got bought by a new company about 5 years ago, I want to say it was. And they've really been working hard to bring back the quality to the Delta name. Full disclosure, they did actually send me this saw. Of course, they managed to send it to me back when I had COVID. I haven't had much of a chance to really take a look at it. We got it unboxed, I set it up, and I went over it. That's about it. It looks like a great saw, but until I get a chance to really do anything with it, I can't tell you much. And unfortunately, the reviews here can't tell us much. There's all of 4 reviews. But here's the price, $500. That's $150 cheaper than that Bosch. That might make you willing to consider this. The only problem with that price is it's currently out of stock. I'm going to have a whole video about the whole stock thing coming up. There is an option, though. You can go over to Amazon and you can buy it over on Amazon. You're going to pay a premium of $32.79. But if you got Prime, you're going to get the free shipping on it. So it might be worthwhile to you. Anyway, it's a good looking saw. As I said, it's got all the bells and features that you want. Now, one of the things about this saw that's also a benefit over the Bosch there is it's got the drop shadow light as well. As like you see on the Hercules, you see on the DeWalt DWS-780. I love that shadow light. I just did a review on the Bauer. I was surprised, stunned the Bauer had that drop shadow. I really like that. Lasers were great in their day. It was nice. It was new. But, they have their problems as well. The drop shadow there really makes these things a lot more usable, especially in bright daylight. I can't wait to get more time on this saw. But at $537, that's a significant savings, and it's not that much more expensive when if you're considering like the 780 from DeWalt. All right, Makita. Now, as everyone knows, if you've been following the channel, I'm a Makita fan bear, self-professed. I love Makita. But this saw has had a hit or miss history. When they first came out, they had some alignment issues there. A lot of people were complaining that it was hard to get this thing squared and whatnot. I've heard, though, that that's been addressed, that it's not nearly an issue like it used to be. Claws crossed that that's the case. They addressed this issue, though. Rather than the articulating arm issue, they kept the 2 tubes and moved them to the upper left in this kind of weird at an angle kind of system here, and you got the front controls there for it. It's a nice setup. It's getting good reviews recently, but that price, $739. I don't understand why moving the tubes is more expensive than the articulating arm robotic, Doc Ock kind of feature. It's a great saw. It does what it's supposed to do. I love Makita. They're a great brand. They stand behind their products. But at $739, are they going to come and make me dinner too? I don't think so. It's hard to justify that price. Then we've got the Metabo. So this is the Metabo HPT C1 2R SH12, whatever that means. Now this is, Metabo, this is really the Hitachi, because it's a Metabo HPT, which is Hitachi Power Tools. And this is their version. And the way they do it is they simply took the two tubes and they put it right to the right of the saw. It's a good saw. It's a nice basic saw, but there's nothing flashy about this saw. This is the closest I would say comes to what I would consider to be a prosumer grade, lower tier professional saw that they've added this feature to. There's nothing about this saw that jumps out and says, wow, this saw really has a ton of quality to it. I mean, other than the features, that make it, usable in this function, you got a laser rather than the drop shadow. It's a good saw, but it does seem a bit outdated compared to like the Bosch or the cruzer. It's just hard to justify. Now the price, $520, that's a decent price, but would you want to go, let's see, they got 13 ratings on it. I guess not really a whole lot to go with. Would you rather go with that or go with the Delta there? I don't know. It's got the drop shadow light. I like that. I guess I'm kind of sold on that these days. All right, so that's what you're going to see in the 12-inch 12-inch blade size. Now, what are you going to do though if you want to save a little bit of even more space on the bench and maybe a little bit more in your pocketbook? Well, there are 10-inch options for most of these saws. Bosch has got their 10-inch version here, and you're looking at $600. So you're saving $50. You're saving a few inches on the bench by going with this. If you're going to be portable, it's going to be a little lighter, easier to take with you. And it has that, of course, that axial glide system that goes with it. And again, you're going to get that same dust collection with this also. So if you're running in a shop or if you're running at a client, you got a shop vac hooked up to it, that's going to be really beneficial, something to consider, right? And Delta's right there also. They've got their 10-inch sliding compound miter saw, the 26-2241. Again, I'll have links for all this down below so you can read through them and see which ones you like. But they've got their 10-inch version. And here's a nice thing about the 10-inch version. You get a really nice discount if you buy the 12-inch. You're following me? Yeah, the 10-inch is more expensive than the 12-inch. I can't fathom why. I'm lost for words. It's $545 versus $532 versus $500 over at the old Lowe's when they're in stock. I don't get it. It's a great saw, looks nice, has good reviews. I got 306, got excellent reviews, but I don't know if I would pay a premium for a smaller saw. I don't know. What about you? Have they figured out something there that the Bears missed? Anyway, Makita's got their version also in the 10-inch saw there. Again, these are all basically the same saw, just pared down for a smaller blade. Again, it's going to be a lighter saw, and in most cases, $600. It's going to be a less expensive saw. But at this point, you're looking at $600 for the Makita. That's in the same price range as most of the 12-inch saws. Come on, Makita, what are you doing here? Anyway, all these saws have good reviews for the most part. They're solid, they're well-made saws, and yes, even the Metabo has their option as well. Now, the Metabo is kind of odd, and they do something different with their 10-inch with the blade, or not the blade, but with the sliding mechanism. You've got one tube here off to the left, and then they've got a second tube. Let me see if I can find you another angle underneath and to the right. Now, the only thing I can think of is that it's a cost-saving feature because on the fully enclosed tube, you need a more expensive bearing system than you do on this one. In fact, this may just be a friction bearing or maybe just somehow captured bearing in there. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you know. Maybe you want to comment down below and let the bear know why you think they went with this half system down here with the fully enclosed system over there. It's kind of odd. Seems like they make it overcomplicated, but maybe at the end of the day, it's a simpler, cheaper way to build the saw. Their version here is $520, which is interesting because that's the same price as the 12-inch version. Again, lost for words. But if you think price is an issue, you haven't seen anything yet because we got Festool. Hope you finished eating because $1,500 could make you choke on that. That is something there. Now, I've had a chance. I went and saw, I've only done it once and for only a few minutes, but I went to a Festool demo truck and I got to play with all their toys. And let me tell you, that was a lot of fun. They have some really nice toys. I got to tell you, everything there feels silky smooth, feels top notch. Does it feel $1,000 more expensive better? No, it doesn't. The one thing is, the Festool really does have some of the, if not the single best dust collection for any miter saw. And miter saws are notorious for having terrible dust collection. I joke that I won't even bother putting the bag on it because it's just going to end up all over the floor anyway. The Festool is the exception that proves the rule. I will say the Bosch is not far behind it. I haven't had a chance to use the Delta to see what theirs is like, but the Festool is fantastic. And at $1,500, it better be, right? Now, if you want to see the Festool in action, I suggest you go check out my buddy Dave Shuda over at Make Something. He's got a YouTube channel, been around for years. He does fantastic work. He upgraded his shop a few years ago. He's got this saw as well as a few other Festool tools, and he loves them to death. You know, and good for you. He's a hardcore woodworker type, not a contractor or anything like that, so he can afford to invest in stuff like that. So anyway, there you've seen it. There you've seen your options for, you know, I often consider these the premier, you know, shop saw because of that ability to mount it on a standard 26-inch bench, have it flush up against the wall. They're top tier saws. They do excellent work. All of them, even down all the way down to the Metabo. You're going to be happy with that saw. Now, as I said, when I get back to Montana and I'm going to get a chance to test these, we'll test the Delta versus the Hercules and stuff like that. We'll look for deflection and all that kind of good stuff. But until then, you know, let me know what you think. Do you have any experience with these saws? What do you think about them? What was your experience? What is your price point of paying where you're willing to go from, you know, from the $380 or $500 standard 2-tube system all the way up to that, you know, that articulating arm system? I mean, $500, that's pretty close. $650, ouch. $1,500, I don't think so. Anyway, let me know down below in the comments. By the way, when you're down there, don't forget to chomp the old like button. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the good comments or content. Also, ring that bell because YouTube doesn't really believe you when you hit subscribe. Anyway, that's all the bear has for you today. You all take care. God bless. And as always, shine on.